Hello, everyone. Welcome to this adventure in discovering a way of living in accordance with the way things are, or with what would be called the Tao. We're going to be referencing the Tao Te Ching, an ancient Chinese book of poetry, wisdom poetry, written about 2,600 years ago. If you have a copy of this, it would be good to refer to. It would be good to have a copy. I have one in my translation out under a book title called A Path and a Practice. There are lots of good, there are hundreds of translations out. I recommend mine, one by Stephen Mitchell, one by Jonathan Starr. Let's start by assuming that there's something across space and time that connects us. Right at this moment, I'm looking at my Zoom page on a computer. I'm by myself in a little room that I use for Qigong, that Nancy and I use for Qigong. And you're wherever you are at whatever time you are. But there's something that connects. There's something that transcends both space and time in a mystery, in a quantum flux, deep, dark mystery of existence in which you and I, right at this moment, are together. I can't see you, but I can tell you that at some level, I sense you. I don't know where you are or what you're doing, but there you are, and here I am. We're not going to be having a formal class in which there are propositions and precepts that you must learn, and if you understand them, then everything will be hunky-dory. I'm simply a guide on the adventure of coming back to yourself. And in the process, I'm coming back to myself, because this is a process for me as well as for you. In one sense, we've never really left who we are, who we essentially are. We've just forgotten. There's been an overlay of what I call the conditioned mind that has substituted an idea of who we are, a series of constellated concepts of who we are. From the Greek word persona, we've created personalities of who we are. And over the years, this has become literally who we think we are. If someone asks us, "Who are you?" we say some version of "I am," and then we fill in the blanks. And what we're talking about usually is a persona, a personality. This is a personality of who I am. This is who I've learned myself to be. Now, Lao Tzu, the Chinese sage who wrote the Tao Te Ching, maybe 2,600 years ago, saw through this personality layer. He was able to understand and see through meditation, through careful exploration and observation of the way life actually worked rather than the way we think it should work. He was able to see through this, as many teachers were able to. But he wrote his discoveries in a little book of poetry. I'll digress here for a minute and tell you, you probably know the legendary story of the way the Tao Te Ching came into being. Lao Tzu, as an old man, became so disaffected and so discouraged with his culture. At the time he lived during the time of the Warring States period of China, in which there were several separate states vying for power. There was a great separation between the ordinary village person and the elite wealthy people in the cities. There was constant warfare. There was constant division of people against one another, and a constant stirring up of patriotism, of how you should behave and who you should be loyal to. Lao Tzu saw through this. He came to the point where he didn't want any part of it. And legend has it that he got on an ox, which is the way you traveled then, and headed for the mountains through the Hanshu Pass. And when he got to the border that separated his state from the mountain wilderness, the border guard wouldn't let him pass. The border guard knew of his reputation and said, "Master, you can't leave until you've written down your wisdom." And Lao Tzu said, if I write it down, that won't be it. To write it down, to write the Tao down is not the Tao. Nevertheless, the border guard wouldn't let him leave until he wrote something down. So he got off of his ox, sat under the shade of a tree, and in one afternoon wrote the 5,000 Chinese characters that became the Tao Te Ching. He tossed it to the border guard and headed off into the mountain wilderness, never to be heard from again. Now, legend, sure, but some degree of an understanding of what was going on in this teacher's mind. That one, he was disaffected from his culture and saw he could no longer participate in it. Two, he knew that if he tried to express in words and in writing what he had come to understand of the nature of the Tao, that people would misunderstand it, that to write it down is to misunderstand it. So his first chapter of the Tao Te Ching begins with, the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. Now, the title, Tao Te Ching, we all know the word Tao. It's pronounced with a D, it's spelled with a T, T-A-O. And it means in Chinese, the way. It could be anything from a pathway past your house or up to your front door, or a highway through the land. But in its deeper, more mysterious meaning, it means the way life unfolds itself, the way the universe expresses itself, the deep, mysterious way. And that way cannot be written down, cannot be put into words without losing something. It's the book is titled Tao Te Ching, T-A-O-T-E-C-H-I-N-G. Now, an overlooked aspect of this title is the word T-E, de, or de. This means in Chinese, natural virtue or natural power, or the essence of what it means to be in existence. That which in me is my truest self and my truest nature. It can be translated virtue, but not a moralistic sort of virtue. It means the virtue of what it means to be my authentic self. Then the word Ching, C-H-I-N-G, simply means book. So the title of the book comes to be the book of the way of natural virtue, or natural power, or true existence. That's what we're looking for in our lives. That essence of who we are that we know at some level we've left behind in all the cacophony of culture, in all the things we've learned through the years about what life means, that fall short, that don't deliver the satisfaction that they promised. One of the ways we're going to explore coming to live at what we would call peace, balance, harmony, and contentment is to first look at why don't we live in peace, balance, harmony, and contentment. And one of the fundamental reasons for this is the way the brain works. and the way the brain has constructed, with the best of intentions and natural processes, a facsimile of existence that we have now, over the decades and over the millennia of human culture, mistaken for essence. When a child is born, it's like that child emerges from some deep, dark, mysterious place, literally from the womb, but metaphorically and spiritually from the womb of existence. The Chinese call this deep, dark mystery Wu Qi. Wu meaning negative, and Qi meaning form or manifest. So the formless, that which has no thing associated with it, but it's not emptiness either. It's mysterious. It's the cosmos before the Big Bang. What was there? What preceded that? What quantum flux, mysterious quantum field manifested in boom, the universe? The Chinese would say that was Wu Qi, the formless. And it manifested into form, and that the Chinese called Tai Chi. And you've all seen the little symbol of yin and yang, the circle with the two curves within it, one dark and one light, a bit of light in the darkness, a bit of dark in the lightness. This was a way of expressing something in motion, the eternal motion of the universe, that form does not exist without constant motion. For us, from a modern quantum physics point of view, the form does not exist unless there is the motion of the subatomic particle. The Big Bang threw everything into form, excuse me. The Big Bang threw everything into form, and that form is in constant motion. That's what causes existence to be. So you have the Wu Qi, out of which the form emerged, and the Tai Chi. That's what the yin yang symbol is called, Tai Chi. It means grand ultimate, or form, the form of things. So when a child emerges, the child emerges from that, way before the mother's womb, from that womb of existence, and sticks its little nose up into Tai Chi, from Wu Qi into Tai Chi. And it's a overwhelming sense of input, of stimulus, of colors and sensations and sights and sounds and odors. It just, at first, the child is just, what in the world? There's no center there in the brain yet to make sense out of all this. And the child is still deeply connected with its essence in the Wu Qi. I'll use the kind of the deep part of the body, the center of the body, to illustrate that sense of where I truly live, where my balance and contentment and peace and joy actually reside. But the child now begins to use its brain, which is simply an organ, just like the heart, a very complex potential computer. And it begins to process this input from the ears and the eyes and the nose and the sensations. And gradually it puts things together. It begins to build categories. I've seen that before. There that goes again. I hear things. Oh, that's something, that's a thing. It's called mother. That's a ball. That's a dog. That's an airplane. that's a this, that's a that. And gradually, over the first few couple of years of the child's existence, it makes these categories. And the brain does this wonderful job of sorting and categorizing to make sense out of the Tai Chi, out of the manifest existence. And as the child forms the categories of mother and father and ball and dog, it also begins to form a category of me. There's some thing that is putting all this together, and it's Bill, or it's Bob, or it's Susan, or it's Nancy. This is me. And every parent knows when that child puts together the category of me, what begins to occur. Then becomes mine, mine, mine. And with the category of me enters in fear. There's a me, and if there's a me, then there's a not me. And this is where some of the classical religious doctrines of the fall might have occurred. When we process everything into its category and make a category of me and not me, there's a sense in which we forget what is really going on. It's all right to have a category, a tentative category of me and not me. But what's happened in human culture is that we've solidified that category of me and not me into the essence of existence, where in actuality, the essence of existence is nothing is not me. Everything is tied together in Wu-Chi and in all of the dancing interconnections of Tai Chi. The dancing Tai Chi, the dancing light-filled universe is all connected. And the temporary construction of a Bill or a Susan or a Bob is for consciousness's ability to experience what it's like to be Bob or Bill or Susan. It's useful, it's interesting, it's in a sense delightful, but it's also not the deeply real. And in creating this category of me, the brain goes even further, and it begins to condition the mind into what I call the conditioned mind, which continues to create categories. It creates categories when it's afraid. It creates categories when it wants something, when it desires something. It creates categories when somebody in authority tells it something. Instead of just one category of this is me, there are dozens of personas, of masks within our brain consciousness of who we think we are. There are roles that we play. There are different personas that are formed at different ages out of different circumstances, from abusive situations, from traumatic situations, from fearful situations, from happy and glorious situations. We develop an idea of how the world is supposed to be. And bless our hearts, we're isolated. All those personas blend together and they're isolated in a skull encased sense of who I am. And it's this poor conditioned mind that's trying to find its way in a world filled with billions of conditioned minds, all isolated in skulls, all afraid, all acting out of projections and fears and desires and impulses and different moralities and shoulds and oughts. It's a wonder that we function at all. Perhaps, perhaps we're not functioning that well. But all of us are longing for a reconnection with who we truly are. Who we truly are has not disappeared. It has not dimmed. It has not gone anywhere. It's not something we have to seek and find. It's there. It exists in the timeless, spaceless consciousness of reality. I believe that reality itself, the universe, is conscious, and that I am a particular consciousness of that deeper, larger consciousness. That's who I truly am. And Lao Tzu said that for an effective life, for a life of contentment and even a life of helpfulness to my fellow beings, it must be lived from my ti, my de, my natural quality, my natural essence, my natural virtue. So as we continue on this, we'll call it a class, but it's really just an exploration together as friends. As we continue on this exploration of reclaiming a sense of balance, contentment, peace, and happiness, we're not trying to find something as much as we are trying to deconstruct all of the conditioned neural pathways that are designed to keep us contained, constricted, initially to keep us safe, but that have turned into a tragedy of keeping us separate from each other and from who we really are. So we're seeking really to take the journey from the isolated, skull-encased illusion of who we are down the ego-soul axis, and to begin learning ways and discovering ways of living life from who we really are. The glorious paradox of that is that as we live from there, we discover contentment and peace and joy and balance and harmony, because this is how we were designed to live. One aside here, we have to set aside the myth that culture over the last few millennia has created, that this peace or harmony or joy is elusive and not a worthy thing to pursue, that it's somehow selfish, that somehow we can only be happy in as much as we've worked hard and put forth enough moral and physical energy to somehow arrange the external world into such a way that, okay, now we can be happy, but it never works. What Taoist thought tells us is that that will never work, that happiness and peace are not byproducts of a well-lived life. It's just the opposite. A well-lived life is the product of an essential peace, balance, happiness, contentment, and joy. That only from that kind of a deep existence can any kind of a cohesive, peaceful external world be built. So as we go along in the chaos that we seem to see around us, let's not trick ourselves into thinking that somehow we're trying to find a handle on how to arrange these deck chairs on the sinking Titanic, so that they'll be comfortable for us. And then we can maybe can stretch out in one for a while and have a little bit of peace. No, no, we can't do that. Peace is our birthright. Contentment is our birthright. Happiness is our birthright. Balance is our birthright. And what we're going to do is find a way to live from that. And then it will naturally express itself. It will be the greatest gift we can give to ourselves, our loved ones, and to the world. I'm sure you're filled with many questions. We'll have our discussion in a few days, and just bring whatever questions arise for you, and we'll talk with each other, and we'll continue to take this journey into contentment. Back to that sense of no space and no time. I feel like I've been with you for a little while, and I've expressed in stumbling words that which Lao Tzu says can't really be expressed, but we have to try, and we use our our words that are less than adequate to be guideposts to lead us to that which will truly satisfy. And from there, we don't need any more words anyway. So it's been nice to be with you. I look forward to seeing you quote in person on this thing called Zoom. And until then, blessings to you, my friends.